Hey everyone, I'm Eric Thomas of Eric Thomas Studios, and today we'll be talking about getting some motion in your photos and designs using motion blur. Before we can add motion blur to our image, we'll need an image to add blur to. For this, I would recommend getting a frozen action shot, or a photo that's taken at a high enough shutter speed to catch something in motion without any blur on the subject. You can actually do motion blur right in the camera by following your subject and using a lower shutter speed, around 125, but with that you'll have a limit to what you can do. With a frozen action shot, you'll have the most amount of detail to work with in post, so you can precisely and specifically do what you want. Once you have that, we'll bring it into Photoshop. From the start, I would recommend that we immediately make a copy of the background layer. Since this is going to be destructive, it'll be a good idea to keep a backup of the original image. Now with this, there are two possible issues you'll run into. We'll go over those and how to deal with them first before we get into the actual effect, since the effect itself is really quick. The first is that when you blur, everything will be blurred, including the subject you want to show moving. To prevent this, we'll make a copy of that subject so it won't be blurred. And to do that, first select the subject with the lasso, marquee, pen tool, or whatever selection tool you prefer. If we were to do what we're going to be doing right now though, it might make it look like our subject's not actually part of the image when we're done because the edges will be way too sharp. To fix that, it'll be good to have the subject's edges blurred slightly as well. To do that, head up to the Select menu up at the top of Photoshop and go under the Modify menu. In there's an option called Contract, which will let you bring the edges of your selection in a bit. From there are two ways we can proceed, using either layer controls or masking. The first is just making a copy of the selection into a new layer, with layer via copy, using Command or Control J. With this though, your selection will also still be in the copied layer. We can actually remove it from that layer though, by holding down Shift, and then typing Command or Control J. This will do a layer via cut instead, cutting the selection out of the active layer and moving it to a new one. If you want a bit more control though, we can mask the subject out. To do this, we just hit the icon of a square and a circle inside it down at the bottom of the layers panel. This will make it so the background is transparent. You can then go over to the properties panel and move the feather slider slightly to the right. This will make the mask expand outward and give it softer edges. When we add the blur, this will let the subject blend more into the effect. We can then make another copy of this layer and invert the mask using Command or Control I on that copy and move it under the subject's layer. We'll now have both separated out and we can almost add our effect. Sometimes, depending on the subject, you might have to apply the mask to your background and fill in the hole your character's left. This can be done with the healing brush or content aware fill, depending on how big the hole you've left is. Since it'll all be blurred anyway, it doesn't have to be perfect here. And one last thing you might want to do is make your background into a smart object. Just click right on the layer and then click Convert to Smart Object in the menu that opens up. With a smart object, any filter you add will be made into a smart filter, which really just means you can adjust the effects after they've been applied. And then, finally the effect. To make motion blur, we head up to the filter menu and go to blur, and then under that, motion blur. We then have a big preview of the effect in the window and two controls. The first control is our angle, or which direction everything will be blurred in. We can either manually enter an angle in the text box or drag the radial dial. The other option is the distance, or how blurred everything is. The faster you want your subject to look, the higher you'll want this to be. And on the right side we have a checkmark for preview. With this on, you can also see the effect in the canvas, as it will look when applied. And that was how to fix a motion blur. I hope you've all learned something and had fun doing it. If you have any feedback, you can let me know with a comment below or with a message to @ET_studios on Twitter. You can also like this video and share it around. I'd appreciate the help getting the word out. And I'm planning to be back here every Friday, so if you like this, be sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Have a great day, everyone.